Thank you for being here today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Let's start it off. Can you introduce yourself for
Yes.
my listeners, please?
My name is Camila Mendes. I am an actress. Period.
That you are. Okay, give me a little background. Where you grew up. Give me like the good stuff from your point of view.
Yeah. I grew up kind of all over the place. Very random. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. Moved to Alpharetta, Georgia. Back to Charlottesville. Back to Georgia. Then I moved to Orlando for a year. And then my parents split up. And then I moved to Brazil for a year in Brasilia. And then both of my parents are Brazilian. And then back to South Florida. And then I was like kind of all over South Florida.
So what are your parents doing during this time? Why are you moving so often?
Up until I was 8, it was because of my dad's work. And so he kind of climbed the corporate ladder. And for a long time, it was because companies were getting bought out by other companies, and then he would have to transfer. So a lot of it was because of that. And then around 8, it was because my mom decided to get a divorce, and my grandpa was really sick with cancer. So my mom was like, I want to be close to him because I know he's not well. So she brought me and my sister to Brasilia to live with him during that time. So that was just 1 year. And then it was mostly after that, it was kind of my mom, like not fully being able to settle. But the good thing is I stayed at the same school. I went to a school that was like all like K through 12. So I at least got to stay like from 6th grade onward. I was at the same school, even though I was moving around different cities.
What effect though did that have on your like identity? I know you've talked briefly like in some articles about like, I don't know, I'm sure like moving around, maintaining friendships, sense of self.
It was really difficult because I constantly had to redefine and redefine my identity and reassimilate into new groups, new social groups. And it varied a lot depending on where I was and what city I was in. There was always like different kinds of people. And like for most of my life, like I wasn't really used to being around other Latinos. Like I was probably the only one when I was living in the South, you know, like Georgia and Virginia. And then when I moved to South Florida, I was all of a sudden surrounded by Latin people. And then that really kind of made me feel a little bit at home. And I think for a long time when I was younger, like, not that I rejected my Latinhood, but like I wasn't as connected to it because the only access to it was through my parents and, you know, different generation and whatnot. So like, I feel like for most of my upbringing, I felt very American. And then when I moved to South Florida, I started to get in touch with my Brazilian heritage a little more. Summers.
And your parents spoke like Portuguese at home?
Yeah, exactly. It was my first language, actually. But obviously, I started going to school and like speak English with all my friends. So English became my better language.
Do you feel like moving around so much had an effect on like your ability to, I don't know, maintain relationships or form them? Like I'm imagining like, okay, you move to a school, you meet a great group of friends, or you have a best friend, or I don't know how old you were, but like a boyfriend or something. And then you're like ripped out of there.
Yeah. It's like, it kind of like redefines the way you view attachment. And I think when I was younger, you know, I didn't form those attachments as much to like friends and stuff. But like when I started to get around like 8, 9, that's like when it really started to hurt, because like I started to create those like really intense like best friendships.
Yeah,
you know,
like I don't want to leave her.
Yeah, and I remember very vividly every moment that my mom had to sit me down and be like, we're moving, and like I remember those moments and like being super emotional. But also I feel like I have that to thank for who I am today, because I'm like now such an adaptable person, and I get along with a lot of people, and like I feel like I have an ability to like understand many different types of people, and I don't think I would have that if not for my experiences.
What about your parents' divorce? Or were you kind of young, or you don't like remember?
No,
as
I mean,
much?
I remember it vaguely. Like I don't remember the moment. Actually, no, I do, because we went on a trip to Paris together as a family, and they had already decided to divorce, but they hadn't told us yet. And I was like, wait, what? Like, we're on this family trip to Paris,
like
and
the most romantic city
it's
in the
almost like they're
world.
trying to like distract us from the fact that this crazy thing is happening. But I was 8, and I mean, there's like no age that it doesn't affect you. I learned that when I actually took a children of divorce class in college.
Oh, wow.
Learned a lot. And one of the things was that there's no age it doesn't affect you. It's just how it affects you that changes. And I used to tell people like, oh, I was 8 years old. Like I barely remember. You know, it barely affected me. I was too young to understand. But it's not true. You actually understand a lot as an 8-year-old. And I think something, if I'm remembering correctly, at 8 years old, you're kind of more likely to like, you know, try to fix it, like blame yourself.
Yeah, internalize it.
Yeah, internalize it. And then my sister's age, I think she was like 12. She was more like, you know, 12-year-olds have a false sense of maturity. When your parents are getting divorced, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everybody, but in my experience, like this is also something I learned in Children of Divorce, that it's like your parents become so occupied with their own lives because they're like having to rebuild their entire identity. And like, you know, like the whole process of divorce like forces your parents to have to like focus on themselves again. And that kind of takes the attention away from the kids naturally. It's like kind of inevitable. So I feel like I kind of had a little bit more of maybe a more laid back upbringing because like they were kind of tending to other things. I got really involved in the theater scene at school, and from a really young age, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. Like that is the only thing that I'm going to do, and I never doubted it for a second. I was like, this is what I want. This is what I'm good at. I'm obsessed with this. I mean, I always wonder like what was it about acting that really like drew me in when I was younger? Because I didn't really. I mean, I acted through like I think third grade was the first time I started to really enjoy acting.
And do like theater?
Yeah, but it was like, you know, just school plays, like nothing crazy. But I really got into it, and I can see that in the home videos, and like, you know, people would like laugh and respond to my performance, and I'd be like, oh, this is cool, this is fun. Like it's an addicting feeling. And it became my like identity almost to like a fault, I'd say, because I was like I defined myself by being an actor in a way and like lived for that. The good thing is they're friends today.
Oh, that's great.
They get along really well. There was a period of time where it was a little bit more hostile, and where they like, you know, I think when it's like the actual like details of the divorce and that whole process can be pretty messy. But overall, like they met when they were 14 years old. They started dating at 14.
Where did they meet?
In Brasilia, yeah.
Oh, wow. And then they moved to the U.S. together.
They moved to the U.S. together. My mom, like, dropped out of college, moved with him to Japan so he could study at University of Tokyo. You know, she sort of set out to be, like, a housewife. Just such a different generation.
It's interesting, though, just, like, how common, for how common divorce is. And, like, I would say, like, 80% of the kids in my class, by the time I reached high school or graduating high school, parents were divorced.
Yeah.
But it's, like, not that often people really sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
Or talk about like the effects it's had on them, or like as you become an adult, you're saying like it affects anyone at any age, which is true.
Yeah.
But it's like you start to figure out like, okay, I'm in my first adult relationship, and like how did my parents divorce, or how did these things that happened to me when I was a kid that I couldn't control affect like just the way that I act in these other relationships.
Yeah, because you learn how to love through your parents, whether it's like a divorce or not. Like that is your model for love. And I think that can change if like one of your parents gets remarried quick enough and like has stability in that department.
Do you feel like you believe in love?
Oh yeah. I feel like oddly enough, being a child of divorce makes you more romantic. Even though you like tell people that you're super cynical, it's because deep down you really crave love, and that like you're going to get it right. And I've found that in all my relationships, that like I will fight so hard for something, even if it's so obviously not working, because I'm like, don't let it fail. Like I almost have to prove it to myself that like I can stay, you know, in this relationship, and like we're going to make it work, and we're not going to give up like my parents did, you know? But like the truth is my parents, like they shouldn't be together. Like they never, not that they never should have, but like it's very obvious to me why those two people couldn't work. And I love them so much more when they're not together as a couple. You know, I think they thrive better in different environments romantically.
It takes like time and maturity to realize that.
Yeah, and I think the problem with their generation is that they all got married, most of them got married really young.
And there was a lot of stigma to separating.
Yeah, and I think especially during that time, it's like the goal was to find a husband and be taken care of. Like the goal, you didn't set out to like work, and women weren't as career driven. And obviously things have changed, but I see so clearly what the narrative was with my mom and dad.
Well, they're also family for life because of you and your sister.
Yes, exactly.
And that's just like, and I'm happy for you that they treat it that way.
Yeah.
Because I definitely know some people whose parents like will not speak to each other. And like when you have that toxicity,
that's really hard.
That's really hard. And and those are, for me, I found to be the kids who are very cynical about love.
Totally.
I don't believe in it. Look at my fucking parents. I don't want to be them.
And I think like it's so sad because I for me, something that I love, and not that I like to like stay friends with my exes, but like for me, a successful relationship is when I can walk away from that relationship being like, we didn't work, but I have nothing but love for you. And I like, even if I'm resentful or upset, that like the love I have for you is beyond romantic love. It's just like human to human love. And I just like hope that you find happiness, and even if it wasn't.
And I care about you. At the end of the
exactly.
day.
And I care about you. And like, I always try to make sure that my relationships end in that place. Not all of them have, but you know, that's the goal.
Yeah. Can you talk to me a little bit about, I guess, your Latina identity?
Yes.
And I know you said you're in LA actually right now because you're going to a Latina.
I'm going to a Netflix Latina ladies luncheon, and I get so excited because I feel like there's so many young Latinas on the rise right now, and I'm like, I just want to like shepherd them. Not that I'm like that much older than them, but I'm like, I want to be there for them and like cast them in things, and like I keep my eye out for any new Latina talent. Every time I see a new Latina actress, I write her name down in my notes app because I just like, I want to create projects that include all the cool young Latina talent out there, and old, like all of them really, because even the older ones I feel like haven't gotten the chances that a lot of other people have gotten in this industry, you know? Honestly, producing and being on the other side of things, and now being in a place where I'm like watching other people's tapes and helping make casting decisions, I'm like learning so much because like you really know in the first 2 seconds of watching a video.
It's also like it's like so specific to like, oh, do they fit this part
and
like,
opposite this person
yeah,
and this
it's
environment.
It's not so much like are they good or
Exactly.
bad, but really fucking hard job.
I think it doesn't feel as hard now because I feel like I built my identity so much around it that now it's just like ingrained in who I am.
I know, but just rejection being a part of acting. Like I tell all my friends who are actors, like I don't know how you do it, because just like, and I feel like the average person doesn't know this, but like you are auditioning for things, and a lot of the time you either don't hear back or you get, you know, typecast or rejected. That's just a part of the job.
100%.
And I think at least for my, I don't think I could handle it self-esteem wise.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point you just learn to understand that it has nothing to do with you. It does and it doesn't.
I know, but how do you, like, it's so much easier said than done.
It's true, but it's much harder. The more frustrating thing isn't the rejection of it, but more so the idea that like you kind of have to wait for a part to be right. And that's frustrating because it's not in your control. But then now what you're seeing is a lot of people taking control, taking matters into their own hands, and creating roles and writing, and like actors who are now becoming creators because they're tired of waiting for somebody to just magically hand them a role that fits them. Because some people don't fit into the molds that are existing today.
Yeah,
and I felt that way for a long time because I wasn't like this idea of a Latina that a lot of people expected me to be. Because I also think being Brazilian is so nuanced, and it's like we're not even Spanish speakers, so like a lot of the times they want Latinos that can speak Spanish, and I'm like, I speak Spanish-ish but not fluently, and so that was kind of frustrating. And like really, it was kind of crazy the fact that like there are no Brazilian characters, no Brazilian roles. It's very rare that you see something like that.
Is that something you're trying to create more of?
100%. That is like my goal.
Are you working on any projects right now around that?
Well, there is one project called Musica that I'm working on I just wrapped this summer, but it's a sort of a Brazilian American story, and it's told through the eyes of a synesthete, somebody who experiences synesthesia.
I have no idea what that is.
You don't know what synesthesia is?
No.
I feel like it's something that like is so common these days for people to talk about, but like Billie Eilish has it, John Mayer has it, but there's like different iterations of synesthesia. It's basically like your sensory wires getting tripped up. So like some people, you know, will play a chord and like see a color. Like you associate.
Am I like dumb? Am I just like not online? Like how did I have not
I don't know.
heard of this?
maybe I've just hung out with too many musicians now, or like I've heard about this, because a lot of really talented musicians have it. And the director of this project, Rui Mancuso, is a synesthete, and his kind of synesthesia is rhythmic association. So it's more about like little, like any diegetic sound that's happening around him. It doesn't happen all the time, but he'll organize it into rhythm. And it can be quite intrusive. So the movie, it's a musical, but there's no singing and dancing. It's not that kind of musical. It's just kind of like a musical experience. And it's trying to sort of explain the feeling in a very romanticized, grandiose way of what it feels like to be a synesthete, where music is the villain. Like music is not the like, good thing. Yeah, the good thing. It's like kind of disturbing and impedes on your life.
Wow, I'm excited.
Yeah,
to check
so
that
it's
out.
like
I'm gonna like go Google that after.
Yeah,
this.
it'll probably come out sometime next year. But I'm really excited because it's the first time I've ever spoken Portuguese in a movie, and I get to play like a Brazilian American. And what I like about it is that it's very unique to being Brazilian American, because it's like I also can't fully say I'm Brazilian because I didn't grow up there. It's like I have two Brazilian parents. And I spoke Portuguese at home and everything, but like I still didn't grow up in that culture fully.
You're still Americanized.
I'm still very Americanized, and but I also don't feel quite American at the same time.
Totally.
And so like, and Rudy Mancuso is also Brazilian American. So this project, it's like two Brazilian Americans falling in love, and it's really sweet. It's like, it's so different when you, meet people who understand the nuances of
and understand your experience at the end of the day.
Exactly.
But also how exciting to be able to portray your experience and then hopefully connect with more people who feel similarly.
100%. And it's like, I feel like it's a kind of movie that Brazilians will relate to and Americans will relate to. What's amazing is that his mom plays his mom in the movie, and she's not an actress. She's just his mom.
That's
and
really
she's
sweet.
Brazilian, and she's so funny in it. She's so funny. And I just feel like I screened the movie for my family in Brazil, and they were dying of laughter with her character because she's super relatable to them. And so I feel like there's going to be something for everybody. Like you don't have to be Brazilian American to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And so you're on your last season.
Last season of Riverdale.
What's it been like to be on a show that's been running so long?
It's beyond comprehensible sometimes, because I feel like my entire 20s, I'm not quite done with my 20s yet, but I started the pilot around 21 and I'm 28 now. So it feels like, wow, by the time I finish the show, I'll almost be turning 29. And so it's like my entire 20s.
10 years of your life almost.
Yeah. My entire 20s were Riverdale. And I can see the evolution with every season, like who I was at the time. And it's such a crazy like documentation of growth.
And not just you, but your castmates too.
Yeah, exactly. And like we've all been through so much together. Like every season there's like new things, and I just feel like the experiences we've shared and where we are today, it's like it's family in the best and worst way. You know, it's like these are people that have had a huge impact on my life and are such a will be such a memorable part of this chapter.
You guys all kind of started out too. Like I feel like most people weren't like famous before they started on Riverdale,
it was only
right?
Cole because he was on Disney.
Yeah.
But the rest of us, we were all newcomers. So we really came up together, and honestly, thank God, because that helped a lot when all of us were kind of like
experiencing these new things together.
Yeah, the nuances of like
Fame.
Hollywood, you know, and like, hey, like, did you get a brand like deal with this company? How much are they paying you? Oh, okay, is that normal? Like, none of us knew how to navigate. Yeah, like how much do you pay your publicist? Like things like that. Like, it's the questions that I can't go to my friends from high school and ask, you know, like that's such a different experience. And so to have those girls by my side through that, I mean, obviously it wasn't just financial stuff. It was like, you know,
dealing with dating in the public eye. And I want to talk about all this stuff with you. Yeah. Kind of just like how you feel like it's shaped your life, and I don't know, relatively quick stardom at a really young age. Like this came out 21. You started it, but it came out 22, 23?
I think it came out when I was like 23 or 22 maybe.
Because it's like in the grand scheme of our lives, that's very fucking young.
Yeah.
And to just be propelled into, and I talk about this with a lot of people who come on the show. Yeah. But it's like once you go there into the public eye, you can't just step away. Like, there's no taking it back. No. Of course you could, delete your Instagram, like not work, move to Timbuktu, but people will still talk about you online and know who you are, and that stuff exists in the stratosphere.
It's so crazy. But I honestly think going to college, I'm so grateful for that, because I got to live 4 years as an independent adult away from my family, studying theater. Mm-hmm. And I could fail, and I could make a fool of myself, and I could like get all the partying out of my system and all the dumb stuff that you do when you're 21. You know, like I got to get all of that out of my system when I wasn't being watched and when my actions weren't being dissected by the public eye. So I feel very grateful to have had that experience, because I think by the time I booked Riverdale, like I didn't know if it was going to happen. I didn't know if acting was going to work out. I had a really good feeling, and I was like, I feel like I can do this, but you really never know. So I was like, when that happened, I was so ready to accept it and be like, okay, this is my life now. Because it was like, I was just crossing my fingers, every night, hoping that one day it was going to happen for me.
And it's also like, there's no stability in that industry either.
No.
Like, you could book the show and then the show could not do well.
Especially not now.
Yeah.
There's no stability now more than ever, because there's always something else. Like, like everything has a short shelf life. It's like, people talk about things and everything's like hyped up, and then everyone talks about it, and then the next thing comes out and everyone's talking about that, and everyone forgets about the last thing. It's like,
well, our attention spans are actual shit now.
Yeah, our attention spans are shit, and we don't like need to linger on the past, because there's constantly new things coming out to talk about. Like what that does now for anybody in the public eye is like, you become sort of like unknowingly concerned with relevancy, where you're like, oh, now I have to like get their attention again. I have to like stay in the game. There's like this thing in the industry about you got to stay in the game, like show face, stay in the game. And it's exhausting, because it's like, sometimes I don't like, is it okay if I'm not relevant sometimes? Like, is it okay if I just like go peace out and like don't post for a while, like, and just kind of
feel that pressure?
I do, but only from myself.
Okay, yeah, internally, or like from like agents, team too?
No, my team doesn't really pressure me to do that, probably because I'm so like concerned with it myself that they never have had to do that. But I do feel pressure internally, because I'm like, only in the sense that I feel like it's so directly linked to my work and my career. That I feel like
financial.
Yeah. And my exactly. My financial livelihood, that I'm like, I can't stop posting. Like I got to show people that I'm like active and that I'm doing this. And like, it's a constant like
dance.
Yeah. Constant dance, and like having to strategize and like think about, and it sucks, 'cause it's not what I want to be doing with my time. It's like, I would much rather, peace out and like focus on my work and just like be in a good groove with myself and like, prioritize the art and the craft. Like I would so much rather just like be that kind of actor.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't dealt those cards, you know? Like I wasn't dealt the cards of like, here's Call Me by Your Name, and like you just
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Here's the biggest movie of the year.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have an Instagram, and you don't have to post, and
Exactly.
you get a Christian Dior campaign or
Yes.
whatever the fuck it is. Like, no, I get it. It's like you have to push, even with this podcast. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a minor level, but it's still like I have to be active online
100%.
to push the things I'm doing, to pay my rent, to like, you know, of course I would love to like delete my Instagram. Would that be better for my mental health? 100%.
Yeah. But it's like, what choice do I have sometimes? Or we do have a choice, and I'm making it, and the choice is to keep posting.
Yeah.
Because
But it's not as black and white.
No, I think it's a day-to-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like that's as much as I can think of sometimes, is like, can I do something today? You know, like, oh shit, I haven't posted in a while. I should probably post something today. You know?
Does it ever make you anxious?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like I'm saying 100% a lot. This podcast is making me realize how much I say that.
I say like all the time, and I'll like, oh, I just said it again. When I do the edits, I'll see it because it like has subtitles.
It has its own little like.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to work. I need to take a speech class.
I started saying 100% because of Rachel.
Shout out Rachel.
Shout out to Rachel Matthews.
I don't know.
But yeah, it makes me anxious.
Has just life in the public eye been hard? Like, do you feel like it shaped insecurities of yours?
Yes and no. Every once in a while I'll get like a random tweet of someone being really mean, but like it's one person and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like,
but you don't like pick yourself apart. Like, I feel like seeing myself on the film, I'm way better now, but I used to really suffer with dysmorphic body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And just even seeing myself on the camera, not that I act, but like even for podcast shit, I would be highly critical. And that's something I've had to work on.
I was definitely like that early on. Really like, because also I think now I've kind of like, I understand now. It's like, this is really weird to say, but like I really have a good sense of what I look like now. Whereas like before actor life or like working actor life, like, yeah, I would look in the mirror sometimes and take photos, selfies every now and then. But like I really look at myself so much now involuntarily. Mm-hmm. Like it's just always there, whether it's like because there's an episode of Riverdale, it's like me watching my work, or like I'm in hair and makeup staring at my face. Like they're doing touches on me right before they call action. Like I am constantly having to look at my own face, and it's truly exhausting. But what it's done is I'm like so desensitized to those things. Like I think season 1, I would watch every episode and be like, oh my god, my stomach there, oh my god, this, and like I was like so insecure, and it really like fueled my eating disorder, because I had one I had one at like various points in my life, like a little bit in high school towards the end of senior year, and then a little bit in college, and then it came back season 1 of Riverdale. And it was because I also, like, you know, when you're in your early 20s, like your body's fluctuating, you're still like, my body hadn't like settled into itself yet. Mm-hmm. And I was like looking at myself, picking myself apart, my stomach, you know, my arms, my chin, anything I would like obsess over. And then it made me like, it kind of got in the way of my acting, because then when I was acting on camera, I would like
You're worried about angles. Yeah,
it really fucks with your process and your ability to emote and be organic. And then I started seeing a therapist around that time. That was the first time I started doing therapy, was to heal my eating disorder. And then I did, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I never knew that was going to go away. Mm-hmm. And like I started seeing a nutritionist who kind of helped me overcome my fear of bread, like in carbs. I was really afraid of eating carbs. And what would happen is I would avoid it for a long period of time, and then I would binge and eat a bunch and then purge. So it was like this like terrible cycle. And she helped me overcome that by like reintroducing bread into my life, to be like, see,
it won't kill you.
It's not going to kill you.
Exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy. 100%. And then like now it's something that rarely comes up in therapy. Like I barely talk about.
But you still see a therapist?
Oh yeah.
And inspiring that you like. I think it's really the first step is obviously acknowledging that you have an issue.
Yeah.
And then 2 is seeking the help. And like I always say with my own mental health journey, like it is it's a lifelong struggle. It doesn't just like fully go away.
No, I mean,
there's periods of stress or anxiety where like it can bring back those thoughts and just but to see that you're like working on it, or that you see a therapist sought help and aren't just like ignoring the issue,
totally,
is what's important. Do you have any advice for listeners who are maybe struggling with their body image?
It's so hard to say. It's because all I want to say is like see a therapist, because I don't know that I could have done it alone. Because it's like you can talk to your friends and your family all you want, but like not everyone can offer the advice that you need, and sometimes people offer advice even though they don't intend to, that's actually worse.
Totally.
You know, that kind of sends you further into one. Like something that really would mess with me is that when I would lose weight, people would be like,
"You look so good.
You look so good," and then I'm like,
one. Every woman knows that.
Yeah,
one.
and then when I don't hear that, I think I look terrible. When no one's commenting on how thin I look, and I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, and I never suffered from an eating disorder, but I had such debilitating anxiety. I would go like periods of time without really eating much, or and I was so anxious. I felt like I was just burning off like calories and weight, so I would get to really low weights. And when I was doing not well mentally at all during those periods, and I'm like suicide, like so
that's when you would get the most compliments.
Yes, and it's fucked up. And I actually look at photos of me like when I felt like I got the most attention for being like the hottest,
right?
And I'm like, I have such dead eyes. I'm like so I look painfully like not there and depressed, and like it makes me sad, and I'm like, what is like hotter about this? But like even other women, even family members, and like not mean, like they didn't have bad intentions. They're genuinely like, I don't know, something about their own internalized stuff with weight, but they'd be like, wow, you look so good, you look so skinny. And now I'm like, it's crazy that like when I'm healthier and happier, people aren't like, you look so great.
I know. And
I'm like, what the actual
that really fucks with me.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a constant dance of getting to a place where like you just have to be secure about it with yourself and know that like at the end of the day, like I'm healthy and that's what's important, and like look at these amazing things my body can do for me.
Exactly. And at a certain point you just you kind of have to just make peace with your body and like stop resisting it so much. You just got to let your body do its thing. And like and roll with it instead of fighting it, I think, is what I learned.
Do you feel pressure today? Maybe not so much with body, but just like appearance in general, being in the public eye, or I don't know, paparazzi? And
I feel pressure from the industry or like the public, no, but for myself, yes. I'm definitely very perfectionistic.
Like, do you feel like you have to be like done when you leave the house? Like, do you always?
No.
I don't know, just like
No, I don't. But I feel like if I were someone who got paparazzi'd every day, then maybe. You know, like I don't have to worry about that. I've been paparazzi'd a few times in my life, but like I'm not somebody who's like, you know, they're like waiting outside my house. I mean, there was a period of my life where that happened, but it was the pandemic and it was like really random. But like I was like, why do you care? But mostly like I can live a very normal life, and like I'm somebody who likes to go out without makeup on. I don't have the patience to put on makeup and look perfect every day. Like I wear the same outfit all the time, and I like barely do anything to my hair. I just like, to be honest, I don't have time to like do myself up. But if I'm gonna be on a carpet and like do things like that, then I'm very perfectionistic about what I look like when it's like for the big moments.
Yeah, and that's gonna spread all over everywhere.
Exactly, that picture will live on, and so then I get more panicky.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about your SA experience.
Oh, yes.
And just maybe more so your decision to open up about the sexual assault.
What's funny is it wasn't really a decision. It was just something like I was doing a cover story interview. I don't remember how it came up, but I just started talking about it. Like it wasn't like something I was like, I'm going to finally open up about this. Like I'm such an open person naturally, and I actually try to control that part of myself because I'm like that in my day-to-day life, and I like being like that. It feels natural to me. But I also like forget that I can't be like that in the public eye all the time. Like I can't always, you know, open up to everybody that interviews me. You know, it's like I got to be thoughtful about what I say and when I decide to say it. So it's a constant dance that I have to do with myself of being like, wait, should I talk about this? Oh no, you probably shouldn't. You might say something stupid, or you might like expose somebody else's thing. You know, it's like I'm constantly having to reevaluate those sort of things. But that moment was literally just me sitting down with somebody having a conversation, and I started talking about it. And I was like, I don't care if people know about this. It happened, and it happens to a lot of people. And like, I'm not shy when it comes to that stuff. It didn't feel like this like
big thing.
It didn't feel like a big thing when I was saying it. And then it was like written
Everywhere.
on a, you know, magazine, and I was like, whoa, like, then it felt really solidified. And then I was like, oh. And I remember like the dean of NYU reached out, and she was like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. And I was like, oh, like, I guess the way I talked about it made it seem like it happened, like it was during my time at NYU, but it wasn't at NYU.
Okay.
It was an older guy. I mean, not older, but he was like, I was maybe, what was I? Sophomore year. So I was like 20?
19.
21?
19.
19?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
19.
think most people start 18. That's like baby.
Yeah. Yeah, 19.
It's crazy. It's like 10
And
years.
he was like
10 years
35 or something.
Did you have a prior relationship with him? Like, did you know
No,
him?
I met him that night. We went back to his house, me and my friend and this guy that she was seeing. And I fell asleep on the couch. And then my friend who was hooking up with, or my friend at the time, she's not my friend anymore, she goes to the other room with her guy. And they're hooking up. And then right before she goes in, the guy that wanted to hook up with me was like, does she want to sleep in my bed? Like, I can bring her to my room.
About you?
Yeah. And I was passed out on the couch, and she was like, sure, yeah. He's like, yeah, I just feel like she'd be more comfortable in my bed. And then he like peeled me off the couch and brought me to the bedroom. And then I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, whoa, what?
And he was like, we had sex?
Well, it was him trying again. And I remember like one quick flash of it happening, like very, very tiny memory of it. And then I was just like, oh my God, I gotta go. And what was like really sad about it, and this is the truth about a lot of SA stories, is like, he didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong. Like there was no, he would not look back on that situation and go, you know, I raped someone. He would not think that.
Well, I think that's where also the media tends to do a disservice to those situations.
100%.
Because it's so dramatized in like, you think of like SVU, CSI, that kind of stuff. It's, you know, they're showing like gun to the head,
Totally.
like rape type of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the majority of cases and situations are, one, it's usually someone you know.
Yeah.
Two, it's usually more of a gray area situation where, but that's why we have to talk about consent at a really young age with men and women, or guys and girls.
It feels like culturally we weren't taught how to handle these situations.
Yeah, and then of course, like when you go to college or something, like you're drinking, you're under the influence, or you're doing drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's when you should know, like, hey, if you shouldn't be having sex at all, or you know, if someone's under the influence. That's where it gets really murky. But I'm so sorry that happened to you.
No, it's fine. Like, honestly, it took me so long to even look at it like that, because when that happened to me at the time, like I was 19, it was like 20, I don't know, 2013 maybe, something like that. It's a while ago. Those conversations weren't happening then.
It was before Me Too.
Yeah, it was before Me Too. So, like, I was like, well, I'm never drinking like that again. You know, I put all the blame on myself.
And you internalize it. And you also are like, I don't know, maybe you didn't feel this way. I shouldn't project onto you. But, like, I'm not a victim. That didn't happen to me.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And
like, so you almost want to believe, or you almost, want to believe that didn't happen.
Yeah. And I remember he like texted me the next morning, and I was like, never fucking talk to me again. And he was like, whoa, just trying to be your friend. And I was like, what about this dynamic?
Did you tell him ever?
No, blocked him, never spoke to him again. I didn't know him. I didn't want to know him. Mm-hmm. All I wanted, and this is what I ended up doing, I flew to Atlanta where my mom was living at the time, and I just stayed with her for like a week. And I was just like,
I know, don't you just want to go back to your younger
those situations
self and like hold you?
I feel like a little girl, and I'm like, mommy, like please hold me. Yeah. It was really sweet, and I just kind of knew I was like at that point where I was like, I need to be with family right now. And I never talked to that girl. That was like the last time we spoke because.
Did you tell her what happened?
Yeah, and she like denied it. She's like, oh my God, no, he's so nice. Like he would never do that.
Stop. That was her response?
That was her response. And because she, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I just think of like so many like 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds and even like girls that listen to this podcast are us girls when we like 10 years ago, and just like how naive and baby we were.
It's so true. Like I felt like such an adult,
them, you know?
But I really was still very much a teenager at heart, you know? Mm-hmm. But I think what was also really shocking to me was the betrayal from my friend at the time. And it was like, you know, freshman year, you make a bunch of friends that you probably will never see again. And she was definitely one of them.
Well, also it's like, I'm sorry, why is a 35-year-old hanging out with a 19-year-old?
I know.
Like, that's a whole nother conversation.
It is. But there's so many guys like that.
No, it's also like, it's very normalized.
Yeah, it is. I just felt really like betrayed by my friend because she was sober that night. She wasn't drinking. And like she let that happen. And like,
weird.
And then denied it the next day.
That's weird. But that's like some weird fucked up, like, I don't want any like guilt or association. Yeah.
And I also like I never like directly said, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I just stopped talking to her. And then I ran into her at Coachella, like years later. Like Riverdale had already come out, and she's like, Cammy, what's up, girl? Like she was like so happy to see me, and I like did not know how to act. I was like, good to see you. Like I just like I'm not about to like start some shit in line for Coachella. Like that's not gonna happen right now. So I'm just gonna like smile, be nice, and like let the moment pass. But it was super off-putting because I'm like, both people in that situation like fully don't know how I perceive it, and that's okay. I don't need them to. For me, it was just like, all right, both out of my life, and like I processed it on my own in therapy, and like it took me years after that situation, after the Me Too movement, to look back and be like, oh, that was rape. Mm-hmm. Which is so crazy.
I know. I feel like it doesn't even like soak in.
No.
Yeah. Once again, also because I think of how it's oftentimes portrayed.
Yeah.
That it's like difficult to think like maybe the situation where it's not so, you know, you're not like tied up, whatever.
Yeah. And then I just think another common thing is blaming yourself. Mm-hmm. Like I really blamed myself. I was like, oh.
I went there consensually to the apartment. I got drunk, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I drank too much. I shouldn't drink like that.
How did that affect or manifest into like how you treated relationships, dating, drinking?
I met somebody around that time who ended up being my college boyfriend for 3 years, and who was like the loveliest human being. Like everything that I thought didn't exist in a man, mm-hmm. he possessed. And he was so lovely and safe, and like we shared a really beautiful love in college. And it's like, to this day, like one of my most memorable relationships, because he showed me what I deserved and how I should be treated. And I met him really shortly before all of that happened. And he was really there for me through all of that. And then we ended up dating and obviously went separate ways. But like, I feel like that was a huge...
Like healing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To not like completely look at men in this terrible light. Mm-hmm. I feel so grateful that I have such a great group of friends from high school, from college, and friends that I've made recently. Like I really feel like I have a strong support system. But it's really like my high school and college friends that like I'm so grateful to have, because they knew me way before fame and way before Riverdale, and they've seen so many sides of me, and I feel like not a lot of people in Hollywood have that. Like a lot of people in Hollywood like move to LA when they're super young and they like don't know anybody, and then they like meet the wrong people, and they meet people who are like, you know, super involved with drugs and partying, and you know, they like get involved in circles that just aren't healthy, that are super toxic. But my experience of Hollywood is not really like that. Like I've seen it peripherally. I know it's around. I know it's there, but I never get close enough with those groups to really see that darkness.
When you meet new friends, do you have the worry of like people are using me or they're wanting to be friends for the wrong reasons?
I can smell it so quickly. Okay. It's so obvious when somebody is like that, because they usually like take a photo with you really quick, or like try to get you to follow them, or you know, it's like they do things like that are very obvious, like you're trying to show off, or like you're trying to,
it's not just about you and me time. It's like
yeah. I don't know, I have a good intuition with those things. Just like I can read when somebody's being genuine. And also like it's you know the people that are just like want to be, you can smell it when someone just wants to be friends with famous people. And yeah, I feel like it's just intuition, really.
And you're in a relationship right now?
I am.
Is that public?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not. And I think I'm going to keep it that way.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm constantly changing my perspective on it, because the thing is, I'm like, I love so hard when I love that, like, I always want to show off I'm
the same way.
My lover. I'm like, look at my baby. Like, you know, I get so like mushy gushy with that
sign?
stuff. I'm a Cancer.
Okay.
You're like, that tracks. What's your sign?
I'm a Leo.
Okay. I think I'm a Leo rising.
But I'm the same way. I like to, oh man, I've had really public, just like I love showing off, like my beautiful, I love my boyfriend so much. And then I've had kind of it's brought me some terrible situations.
Yeah. What kind of terrible, if you don't mind me asking?
One guy, my Brazilian boyfriend was cheating on me with like, I felt like girls wanted to hook up with him or like talk to him.
Because you were posting about him?
Because I was dating him. And then he would slide in their DMs and he hooked up with like all of these girls, and it just put me in a really awkward position.
Yeah.
And just like not nice situations where I was like, and I just felt like I've had some very interesting, strange situations with women like wanting to fuck my boyfriend, and he was hooking up with girls who were underage at a certain point. Like it got really dark.
No.
Yeah. And I remember one of our last like fights before I really like was like, I can't ever speak to you again. He was like, because he was like 30 too. He's like, maybe girls my age just like won't take me seriously. And it's
Wait, what?
I know. It's really, yeah, he was literally hooking up with like 16-year-old fans.
Wait, no.
No, I know. It was like a whole thing. It like blew up really public too online, and all these girls were like calling him out. And then he moved to Florida, and he's an arms dealer now. He sells guns in Florida.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I got cheated on when I was 15, and he was like the popular guy at school. Like he was like really charismatic and hot, kind of a bad boy. I really like sought out my self-worth through him. Like I like him wanting to date me made me feel like so special. Like it filled me up with so much validation. Like I'd be sick at home and I'd be like oh no, I should go to school, like because I just wanted to make sure that they didn't flirt when I wasn't there. And it was like this paranoia that I had, and that was driving me insane. And eventually like we broke up because like we were all supposed to go to this Sweet 16 together, and we were all waiting, me and my friends were all waiting for him to show up. And then he called and he was like, no, I'm not gonna come, like I'm just gonna hang out with this girl instead. And I was like, and it was like so embarrassing. So all my friends were like, where is he? And I'm like, oh, he's hanging out with blah blah blah, he's not gonna come. And then that night I was like a wreck at the Sweet 16. I was like hysterically crying. And then the next day we broke up, and like I always knew, I was like, they definitely were hooking up. And I like never got that validation. Everyone was like, no, they weren't. And then finally I got it from one of our friends. He told me like months later, he was like, yeah.
And he knew, and he just didn't tell
He
you.
knew, a lot of them knew.
Oof.
But no one wanted to get involved.
I know, but the level of betrayal, because it's not just from the person who's doing it to you. It's like you feel like I'm such an idiot.
What was the craziest thing about all of it wasn't like, oh, he cheated on me. It was like how quickly he abandoned me. It was like how quickly he went from being like, I love you so much, to just being like, I don't care anymore. And I remember somebody telling me that he had said to them, I just don't really care about her anymore. And like, as
have told you that
15-year-old girl to hear that, it was like, and I like shut down emotionally for a while because of it. And I would only date guys that were like
obsessed.
Yeah.
And submissive, maybe.
Yeah. And yeah, those things really shape you. It's like dating that young is nice because you gain experience romantically really young, but also.
But if it's not positive experience, it can leave like scars.
Oh yeah, and scars that I still deal with. Yeah. It's crazy.
How long have you and your current person been together?
A few months.
Okay, so it's new.
Yeah.
Fun.
It's new as of like June.
Oh, so you're still on the honeymoon.
I am still on the honeymoon, but it's
honeymooning.
One of those situations where I feel like, and I'm really trying to temper myself here. I don't want to like speak above and beyond, but I feel like I've known him my whole life, and that's something I actually have never felt before. Are you dating right now?
I am probably going to cut this part out. I've been kind of a hoe lately. No, I'm just kidding. I'm single for the first time in pretty much ever.
Really?
For the last year, I've been single since I was 16. I was back-to-back relationships. Like,
wow.
Total relationship hopper.
Yeah.
Always in a relationship.
Like that for a while.
Very difficult to be single. And so I've been single for a year. I went through a really tough breakup. I was very depressed for a few months. And I just... yeah, like I was like, I don't want to date anyone. I really miss this person. I can't imagine my life without them. And so I've just been getting back into the dating pool, like casually. And I just met someone.
You